according to the Kabbalah, which is, for those of you that don't know, just a tree of life, this is how they originally created what you would call time. All time has to start from some form of a 0 point, and you would measure the movement of something until it comes back to its original point, and this would be considered your first unit or time. And what happens is that based upon the way that the earth travels, when you measure time through light, which is the way, most of us measure time, of course, is through the setting and the rising of the sun, it becomes a problem because of the fact that if you do this over a period of time, you'll notice that the sun and the time that it rises and sets changes. And what's happening now is that it gets to a point when you continue to follow this, because you create what's called seasons, right? So it gets to a point where over time, you'll start to notice that the seasons begin to become knocked off because you started reading time every day based upon the same motion and movement, thinking that it would just stay that way all the time and on that course. And we move around the sun, not in a perfect circle. We move around the sun in kind of like what's called an oblong travel. So it's not like a perfect circle. So when you move like that in an oblong travel over a period of time, it will cause your ability to read time to become knocked off. Now, I could go deeper into this. This is a deep subject that needs a little bit more of a scientific research, of course, to talk about. But the bottom line is that this is where you get the precession of what's called the precession of the equinoxes. And the precession of the equinoxes basically represents that every 25,000 years, the 0 point of where you first started measuring time, if you never corrected that, that's why they have like daylight savings time and all that. If you never corrected that 0 point over time, you could be off like 25,000 years, literally. Like if you never adjust it. So why do we have to adjust the clock? Because it's not a perfect circle. So that proves to you on the daylight savings time aspect. But what I'm speaking of now, just go to the higher level of it is the measuring of where this started at from the beginning. You get into what's called AD and BC. And that takes a lot of research. I'm not going to define it here and go into all of that. But AD is where this supposedly begun. And this is what they're not going to tell you. See, time began with a particular person. When you start talking about AD, that's going into a particular individual and his and her, because it's actually a group. It's an individual. See, a lot of those, like AD represents Adonis. So a lot of those Greek mythological deities are groups. That's one thing you got to get into here. It's not one person. It's a group. So when you start talking about AD, of course, you're talking about the beginning of a new point in time. Time being measured a different kind of way. Why did they change it? Why did they go from a drastic form of BC to AD? What happened? That's what they don't want to tell you. This is, AD represents the awakening of a particular individual, and this is what I would call the annuity. Everybody say, well, when the ones drop, what are you talking about? This is the annuity. And what happens is that they didn't teach us that one day the annuity would turn into what you would call nothing. Nothing. And this is where we're at in 2023. Now, like I said, I need more research and time to explain this. And I know I say this on a lot of episodes, but you'll definitely hear me coming back to this subject a lot this year, because this needs to be talked about. But we're in a time of nothing. So this is what I mean by time being offset, or essentially balanced. See, nothing is something to higher advanced beings, but to you right now, you don't understand it. Trust me. It's nothing. I would have to sit you down and show you the equation. But it's nothing right now. until you learn how to master. This is where the Freemasons use the number, the G, or the seventh letter of the alphabet. In astrology, you see the G going into the compass. They have a compass and square. This is how you make a natal chart or a circle. This is all astrology, actually. Higher levels of it, of course. But nothing goes into to understand how to crack the code for nothing, because that's what we're going to have to do in this epic, or where we're at. You have to master the number 7 and the seventh letter of the alphabet, and it's going to eventually taking you into what's called dimensions. I'm going to help you to understand that, and how we can move this planet into different time zones and different dimensions and things of that nature. But now we're going to be challenged essentially with cracking the code for nothing. And if we don't, the worst could be yet to come. So my message for today: you guys keep studying, stay peaceful. I've heard that.